Hey guys, so today we're going to talk about some more about normal curves and using them in normal distributions, right? So just quick refresh, normal curve, bell-shaped curve, mean of your data is in the middle. You got 50% this way, 50% that way. This is also your median, right? Mean and median are the same for normal. So yeah, bell-shaped curve, very important stuff. If you plan on taking AP Stats, very important. If you go pre-calc route, you'll use it some too. And kind of just good idea for, recognizing and looking at data. So we're going to talk more about these normal curves and something called a z-score. You will definitely see this if you take AP Stats next year. We'll do a lot with z-scores. So we're just going to kind of introduce it. We did a little bit with it back in like November-ish, kind of just like how to do it. And now we're going to talk about what it means. So we'll start z-score this week and we'll finish it the first part of next week. And then we'll have a little less math time for our last week of school next week. So let's get into z-scores. So a z-score is the number of standard deviations that a specific data value is away from the mean. Right. So a lot of times I always go back to this test example. So let's say the average on a test was a 90. And when we calculate the standard deviation, we get, let's say, a standard deviation of 2. So if you got a 94 and the average was a 90 with a standard deviation of 2, that means that in order to go from 90 to 94 in standard deviation of 2 intervals, it takes you 2 times, right? 90 plus 2 gets you 92, plus 2 gets you 94. So your z-score would be 2 because it took you 2 standard deviations to get to your score. So it'd be a positive 2. So we're going to talk about kind of a little bit more about what it means. So if you have a z-score that is 0, right, that means that you are 0 standard deviations away from the mean, which means you equal the mean, right? So if our mean was if our mean was 90 and you got a 90, you would have a z-score of 0. Okay, so what happens if you get a negative z-score? That means you are below the mean. Right, so right away, if you see a negative z-score, you should know, okay, this data value is below my mean, below my average. Lastly, if you have a positive data value, or a positive z-score, sorry, that means that you are above the mean. Right, so you got 3 options when it comes to z-scores. You can either be equal to the mean, above the mean, or below the mean. So you can calculate a z-score pretty straightforwardly. I'm going to write it out, kind of confusing, and then we'll break it down. So sorry for that update. Okay, so our z-score is our x bar, which is our data point. We're going to break it down, minus mu, which they talked about in the first video, is our mean, divided by our standard deviation. Right, so I never expect you don't have to recall those different ones. Just need to know how to do it. Right, so this tells us that we need our data point, or a data value. We subtract our mean, and we divide it by our standard deviation. Right, so pretty straightforward calculation. Make sure you do the top part here first, right? So make sure you do data value minus your mean, then divide that by your standard deviation. So let's take a look at this first example. So this